Wow, well, hello, Texas. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming out today. I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you for coming to this conference. You know, as Gary was saying, when they say that our movement's lost momentum, I mean, just take a look around. Does it look like we've lost momentum? You know, as I'm starting to realize, I've gotten to travel across the country a good bit now, trying to win my generation back from the clutches of socialism. And I get to go speak at all these conferences all over the country. And I will tell you, the thing that I've realized is that what unites the overwhelming majority of Americans is far greater than what divides us. You know, I think that the majority of Americans agree on 80% of all the issues. But it's the career politicians and the mainstream media, and I hate calling them mainstream because they are anything but mainstream. It is these entities who want to sow division in our country and force us all to focus on this narrow 20% that divides us, because they want to profiteer off of it, or career politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer want to gain power off of it. But when I go across this country, I realize, no, most Americans are freedom-loving patriots. And when I start going around this country, I realize the Democrats have a true problem. People are starting to wake up to their tyrannical and overreaching and authoritarian moves, because I genuinely believe it's no longer Republican versus Democrat. It is now freedom-loving patriots versus people who worship at the altar of the state. And remember, the bigger that government gets, the smaller God must get. And they're trying to push God out of our schools. They're trying to force us to want to vote to have people like Dr. Fauci in command of every aspect of our lives. And so when I start thinking about, okay, who are the normal people that normally vote for me? Okay, well, it's people who normally are gainfully employed. It's people who normally have a very strong family unit. It's people who normally believe in Christian Judeo values. And so then when I start thinking, well, who is it that actually votes for the Democrats? Who is it that votes for what I call really these socialists, the communists in our country? And when I start looking at it, I realize, that's fantastic. You should run my comms department. You're great. I genuinely realize that they are trying to create more people to vote for them. Everything that they're doing in our culture is trying to create more people who want to vote for socialism. They're putting abortion centers and introducing third-wave feminism to tell women that they don't need to have a family. They are introducing people to have stimulus checks delivered to their homes so they don't ever have to go to work. They're increasing our student loan debt to the point that we have a generation of people who are eternal renters. Now, when you start thinking about it, this means that there is an entire generation of people that are around my age who the overwhelming majority of them don't have children, so they don't care about the next generation of this country. The overwhelming majority of them don't actually have any land or have any ownership of this land. Therefore, they don't feel like they need to care about, you know, who cares if I'm sitting at home making $109,000 a year? Now, I know you're probably all sitting here saying, well, that's a weird number to throw out. Why would you say $109,000? Because the average family of four here in Texas, if they had applied for every single benefit they were eligible for from last March to this March, they would have been able to get $109,000 without ever going to work. It's absurd. They're trying to create more people to vote for them, people who don't care about the future, because they realize that that's the only way they can gain all authority. And believe me, this is what we're up against. We are up against a tyrannical movement of globalists who worship at the altar of power. And I know that for a lot of us, we say, man, and really not many people here at CPAC, because you all look incredibly courageous. But I believe that there are a significant portion of people who feel afraid to stand up, who feel afraid to fight back, who feel afraid to speak out, because one, they might not want to lose their friends, or really they think they're up against this giant billion-dollar industry of the mainstream media, and they're up against all these career politicians, and all these multinational corporations are against them. What help could I do? What could I possibly do? I want to remind you that as an American, you are not descended from fearful men. Because 245 years ago, 56 men met in Philadelphia to sign a document that was treason. To sign a document that said, we are going to have freedom in this nation. I don't care what you do about it. And my friends, it didn't happen by accident. This country was absolutely created on purpose. Go through every single word they put inside our Declaration of Independence. And you might say, wow, they chose all those words so carefully. Why did they bother to put in the fact that they're in Philadelphia? I mean, what does it really matter where it's signed? But my friends, remember that England was the greatest naval power the world has ever known. And Philadelphia is a port city. It's capable of receiving very, very large ships that can carry a lot of cannons. And so the Founding Fathers, knowing that they were going to be persecuted, knowing that they were going to be hunted down, knowing that at least 9 of them were going to have their families kidnapped and their homes burned to the ground, they went to a port city to the edge of the power of the British Empire and said, I declare independence from you. I declare independence from the greatest power this nation has ever known. So when you think that you cannot make a difference because there are not enough of us, remember, 56 men started to put a small ember into our nation that then led to 3% of the American population standing up to actually fight for liberty. And because those 3% of people stood up and fought for our rights and liberties, you get to pass on freedom of speech. You get to pass on freedom of religion. You get to pass on the incredible freedoms that only this nation has. Because, my friend, in this country, we are not subjects, we are citizens. Remember that you are the royalty and the government works for you. It's time to take it back.